Good morning. Most, if not all of you, have heard the sad news of Mrs. Smith-Riles passing this weekend. Although you may not have known her, she was a gifted teacher and a valued member of the IMSA family. At this time, I would ask you to join me in a moment of contemplative thought in her remembrance. Thank you. Anthony?
I want to start today by welcoming a few special guests with us. We're very pleased to have with us our State Representative Linda Chapalavilla and one of our board members, Leslie Juby, is with us also today. I want to welcome you to our annual Veterans Day recognition program, and I use the term recognition because recognizing and or honoring those men and women who have served their country in the United States Armed Forces is what this day is all about. So at this time, I'd like to invite your Student Council President, Anthony Marquez, to come and speak.
All right. Before we begin, may everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. This will be a bit difficult. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just a few quick remarks. It's something that we do very often. We say the Pledge of Allegiance, but because we do it so often, oftentimes its meaning becomes a bit diluted. And so just for a moment, I'd like for all of you to reflect on the last few words that you said, with liberty and with justice for all. For us, that seems like a very natural concept. It's something that we take for granted. It's something that we see every day around us, and we assume that everyone is experiencing a similar thing on a regular basis. But that liberty, it can be expressing your opinions, it can be taking advantage of the justice that is having all the opportunities around you. But the unfortunate reality is that without the service of our men and women in uniform, these liberties and these justices may have never been anything more than just a fleeting hope, as it is for so many people around the world. And with that, I encourage you to enjoy that liberty, to appreciate that justice, but to never forget the service, the dedication, and the hard work that went into building what this nation is and making all of our lives possible. So with that, thank you, and I hope you enjoy the program, and I hope you enjoy Veterans Day.
Every year we invite a special guest to our Veterans Day program to speak to us about what this means to them and their experiences as a veteran. Today we're very pleased to have with us Major Vincent Enriquez, who is an IMSA alumni from the class of 1999. After graduating from IMSA, Major Enriquez attended the United States Military Academy at West Point. Upon graduating, he was initially commissioned an engineer officer and assigned to the 173rd Airborne Brigade at Vicenza, Italy. In 2009, he attended the U.S. Army Special Forces qualification course and was commissioned as a Special Forces or Green Beret officer. He is also a graduate of the Army Ranger School, as well as many other courses and programs. Major Enriquez was selected as a Downing Scholar and is currently attending Harvard University, where he will earn a master's degree in public administration. When finished with that program, he will return to active duty as a Special Forces Company Commander. You can learn more about Major Enriquez by reading the program. At this time, please help me welcome Major Vincent Enriquez.
Oh. I'm not getting abandoned up here. They just want to see the presentation. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. I thought I might have had to do that multiple times, but thank you for expressing your support and welcoming me here. I'd like to thank Jim, Colleen, and Kathy, as well as all the IMSA faculty that reached out to me, found me, and invited me here to be able to speak to all of you. It's quite an honor to be here today to kind of discuss my experiences and then share what it meant to me to be a veteran. And for that, happy Veterans Day. And I know what you're all thinking. Of course, the military guy's up here in uniform. He's going to make us sound off in unison. He's going to make us act in a collective manner. How stereotypical. But when stereotypes are positive, we tend to call those things a reputation. And so the reputation I want of the armed forces has been that you can count on us. In 2003, the American soldier was voted the Time Person of the Year, as shown in this picture over here. Maybe it's a coincidence that was the year I joined the Army after I graduated West Point. I realized, though, that I'm at IMSA, and I remember liking numbers while I was here. So here is some data. This is a chart that shows the all American institutions, the level of confidence that the American people have in them. The American military scored the highest at 76%. As a baseline, you can see at the bottom that Congress scores at 10%. Plus or minus 10% for the survey data. But anyway, here's my explanation for why the military ranks so highly. In the dark days following 9/11, the nation called on the military to defend it. Over the next decade, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq and performed their duties honorably and humbly. We did so because we believed in protecting our country, our families, and our way of life. You'll also notice that in this picture that, well, it's hard to see here, but all the Air Force guys are deploying with their laptops. I actually couldn't find any photos where that was not the case. And then you'll see me here in the bottom right-hand corner looking hard and like a warrior on Kandahar Airfield back in 2006. But Veterans Day is not just about my generation. It's about all those who served. Veterans share a sacred bond amongst them. In this picture, Houston James, a Pearl Harbor survivor, embraces Marine Staff Sergeant Mark Gronke Jr., an explosive ordnance disposal technician who was severely injured while defusing a bomb in Iraq. Hal Moore, Lieutenant General from Vietnam, had this to say about what veterans feel for each other in the heat of combat. American soldiers don't fight for what some president says on TV. They don't fight for mom, apple pie, and the American flag. They fight for each other. And I agree with this, but it does not take away from the sacrifices they made or the nobleness of the decision to serve. When the nation called, they answered. This picture is from this year's Tunnel to Towers run in New York City. I had the pleasure of being able to attend that with my fiance. It's quite an honor to be around kind of that spirit from New York and then also the veterans that ran it. In this particular picture, a disabled veteran is running past the color guard of West Point cadets, carrying on with his warrior spirit despite his injuries. As you can see, he's a single-leg amputee. But I want to emphasize that there are veterans all around you representing the highest ideals of our nation: duty, honor, loyalty, and service. People like Keith McIntosh, who served in the Marine Corps. Once a Marine, always a Marine. President Reagan said of them, "Some people spend an entire lifetime wondering if they made a difference in the world. Marines don't have that problem." Jim Bondi, United States Army Infantry. I'll paraphrase T.R. Fehrenbacher's words from the Korean War to describe what that means. "You may fly over a land forever, you may bomb it, atomize it, pulverize it, and wipe it clean of life. But if you desire to defend it, protect it, and keep it for civilization, you must do this on the ground, the way the Roman legions did, by putting young men in the mud. This is the job of the infantry." I like it. It is. For all other veterans in the audience I may have missed, I apologize. For the students, I implore you that you take some time to realize the sacrifices made on your behalf by veterans all over. And a word about the day itself. Veterans Day was put on the 11th day of the 11th month of the year to commemorate the cessation of hostilities from World War I. On that day, at 11 a.m., the fighting stopped. I think it's a fitting reminder that in every conflict, America has always been able to count on the armed forces in the 11th hour. That reputation that you can count on us has been paid for in many lives, blood, and treasure lost. Machiavelli had this to say of the citizen soldier: "For in what man ought the country look for greater loyalty, and that in that man who has the promise to die for her? In whom ought there to be greater love of peace, than in whom can only be injured by war?" So in the military, when getting a brief, commanders like to ask, "So what? Why does this matter to me?" And this is my answer to you. It's personal, and I have to use my own experience to illustrate it. After graduating from IMSA, this was my journey: the United States Military Academy at West Point, the 173rd Airborne Brigade in Vicenza, from where I deployed to Afghanistan for a year, the 1st Special Forces Group in Okinawa, from where I deployed to the Philippines and Afghanistan again, and finally to the Harvard Kennedy School. And maybe this is my nostalgia talking, but in all my time in any of these institutions, I do not remember being in a more concentrated pool of talent than I remember being exposed to here at this institution of IMSA. And this is why that matters. As Spidey says, with great power comes great responsibility. Other than the significance of Veterans Day itself, I wanted to talk to you about leadership and responsibility. This was the company I commanded last year: 132 soldiers, many with families, some young, just out of high school, so not much older than some of you. Most would see combat with Special Forces teams deployed around the world within the year. My job was to make sure they were mentally prepared, physically fit, properly equipped, and tactically proficient to go. When they went, I helped take care of their families. My leadership role was that of service. It was challenging, but immensely rewarding. American soldiers, fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, and friends, all of them loved, will be sent to dangerous places to do risky things so we that may be able to sleep safely in our homes. How do I know this? There are over 2.5 million veterans in the nation today. Just because the budget for defense is getting cut doesn't mean that the threats to our nation have decided they need to downsize too. Soldiers will deploy and still do their duty. The men and women of our armed forces are good people. As I said in that quote from Machiavelli, they have pledged their lives for a higher purpose. To that nation, to the service to the nation. The question I have for you is, who will lead them? Who will make the right decisions in combat to accomplish the mission and to bring Sergeant Garula home back to her daughter? I look out in the audience, I see the best of a generation. I'm not here as a recruiter, but I'd like to ask you to think of public service. There are people in this audience that I know who would be able to get Sergeant Corolla back home safely from combat, or to ensure the right policy decision is made in government not to send her away from her daughter to a foreign land for an unworthy objective. The military is about people, and while it has asked much of me, it has given much as well. I've had the opportunity to make a positive difference in the world, whether it was handing out school supplies to children far removed from any resemblance of modern civilization, to training and to working with the newly formed Afghan National Army Engineers, or trekking to Mount Everest Base Camp. Here's a picture of my Special Forces team. This is me in the tiger hat on the right. It's hard to see. But I like Hobbs. To clarify, we're wearing sunglasses because it was sunny, not because we're trying too hard to hide our identities. That would make us tools. Anyway, we conducted a joint training mission to trek there and build camaraderie and partnership through accomplishing a difficult physical feat together. This is the how. The Green Beret community, we emphasize the importance of working by and with our allies. Mixed in with my team were 4 Nepalese Army Rangers. We worked together, sharing equal commitment and effort towards our goal. Because as powerful as the U.S. is, we cannot always go it alone every time. That is not what it means to be a leader. Leaders share in their work, risk, but most of all, in the reward. Great leaders are the ones that realize their larger successes are not their own, but only the result of the efforts of the team. Staff Sergeant Giese and Staff Sergeant Kynes were my Special Forces medics in this picture. They helped extract one of our men who had succumbed to acute altitude sickness on this walk. Captain Pranav, Nepalese Army Ranger, coordinated logistics and lodging along the way. My warrant officer, Michael Bevan, was the one who originated the idea for this mission. Again, I want to emphasize it's not the efforts of the leader alone, but that of the team. This is a picture of Staff Sergeant Giese advising Filipino medics on the island of Jolo. We were deployed there to basically advise Philippine Marines on a counterinsurgency strategy against Islamic separatist insurgency that they were facing down in the south. Due to our efforts down there, the local population was able to have the safest national elections they've ever had in their history. So that brings me to something I want to say about globalization and what it has meant from my perspective. Depending on where you get your news, it may seem that America's reputation in the world is under fire. Congress can't pass a budget. We can't figure out what to do with Syria. Where were those weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? But I offer a hopeful interpretation. The United States represents for many across the world the highest ideals of freedom, prosperity, and stability. I acknowledge that in many of these we may fall short, but that we set the highest bar in the world so that we may continue to improve. In all places I have been as a soldier, Afghanistan, the Philippines, Italy, Germany, Japan, and many others, the people there have always looked to the U.S. for strategic leadership. Many of the things that we must fix in the human race, for the human race, climate change, poverty, security, are only within the capabilities of the United States. Increasingly, at the forefront of those engagements is the military or the veterans that embody the idea of public service. Those of us that are still in the military will need to adapt to this emergent responsibility. Fighting and winning our country's wars was always a reactive objective. Ideally, through partnership and outreach, we can prevent wars from ever happening. This is my hope for the future of the military. In closing, I ask on this day to reflect what it means to be a veteran, what that responsibility meant to those in the time they served. For me, it was the challenge of leadership, and the fulfillment of knowing that I made a difference. Thankfully, all the soldiers I commanded came home safely. They say imitation is the highest form of flattery. When thinking of our nation's veterans, I also ask you to contrast their experience with what you define the meaning of life. If there is intersection there, I hope you consider the military an option. I've yet to meet a veteran that regretted the decision. The vast majority are proud of that history and are satisfied in their knowing of the public good that they did. At that beginning, as the beginning cartoon said, everyone gets the gifts from their service. Thank you for your time, kind words, and support.
Thank you. At the beginning of the program, as I said in the beginning of the program, Veterans Day is about veterans. Armed service to our country goes back prior to the American Revolution. Some things about military service, and especially service in a war zone or conflict, never change. One concept that never changes is one which we started exploring a few years ago during one of our Veterans Day programs, the concept of duty, honor, and country. This means different things to different people. To me, the most famous and well-known description of the concept came from General Douglas MacArthur in his address to the cadets at West Point on May 12, 1962. I pulled one section from his speech that I think sums it up. Duty, honor, and country. But these are some of the things they do. They build your basic character. They mold you for your future roles as the custodians of the nation's defense. They make you strong enough to know when you are weak and brave enough to face yourself when you are afraid. They teach you to be proud and unbending in honest failure, but humble and gentle in success. I also found a separate modern interpretation of duty, honor, and country written in 2004 in a poem by Ben Kennedy, who is a political poet. Duty, honor, and country, lofty words that in recent times have become trite, perhaps because we only hear them when our leaders desire to show their might. 'Tis such a shame, since they mean so much more than just a battle cry to fight. Duty, honor, and country. For previous generations, these words seem to add the very meaning to life. Look at how they clung to them for strength whenever they encountered strife. They triumphed because they understood that such words can define a life. Duty, honor, and country, somehow their true meaning became lost in the wake of the Vietnam War. Why do some only feel superior when they bash the ideals that others love and adore? Sadly, such voices obscured the true meaning, causing many instead to deplore. Duty, honor, and country. Fortunately, here in America, we have always had heroes step forward to lead. Is it not easier to see true meaning when you can look at the greatness of a deed? Once again, they have shown us what is important in spite of our selfish greed. Duty, honor, and country. For Pat Tillman, it meant sacrificing riches, fame, and even love of the game. The reason some question him is because they have not the courage to do the same. Because only a man like Pat knows that possessions mean little compared to one's name. Duty, honor, and country. Praise to you, Pat Tillman, for helping us understand the price we must pay to be free. The way you lived and died is a shining example for future generations to see. You will never be forgotten because you gave your all for duty, honor, and country. The concept of duty, honor, and country is not just about protecting or serving your country with a weapon. In the military, there are at least 10 support personnel for every frontline combatant. The fact is that our country and the planet that we all share need more people to serve in different capacities than fighting. The most effective way to serve your country, in my opinion, would be to make a contribution to mankind, make the world a better place, be a peacekeeper who can prevent wars or simply enhance the human condition. Thank you for your time, interest, and support for those who have sacrificed so much to give you the opportunities and lifestyles that you enjoy. Thank you, and have a nice day. That's it.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Super job. Perfect. Thank you.
Amazing to see that many people